All right, welcome to the Explainer. So today we're going to unpeel a model that basically showed up out of nowhere, shot to the top of the leaderboards, and had the whole AI community scratching their heads asking, wait, who built this thing? We are, of course, talking about the model with the codename Nano Banana. And trust me, its launch is a case study that every single one of us in engineering should be paying attention to.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Think about the landscape right now. It is so crowded. You've got giants like OpenAI, Midjourney, and of course, the absolute behemoth of open source, Stable Diffusion. So the question is, how do you even make a dent? How do you launch something new that actually cuts through all that noise? And more importantly, how do you prove your tech is genuinely better, without just, yelling it from the rooftops in a press release?
Well, Google's answer was kind of brilliant. It was like they reverse-engineered the launch itself. Instead of code, they reverse-engineered the marketing. They went with this strategy of, well, total anonymity. No big keynote, no fancy announcement. They just let the model out into the wild, completely unbranded, and let it prove itself. See, this wasn't about building hype. From an engineer's point of view, it was about one thing: getting pure, unfiltered, unbiased data on what users actually prefer.
So let's break down exactly how this whole thing unfolded. Because this wasn't your typical marketing campaign. No. If you look at it from our perspective as engineers, it was basically a massive, public, blind A/B test. And it was pretty genius.
And this timeline, this is a thing of beauty. It's a product manager's absolute dream. First, mid-2025, an anonymous model just appears on the LMArena leaderboard of all places. Then, by July, the community goes nuts. Reddit, X, everyone is speculating, connecting the dots, and a lot of clues are pointing right at Google. And then bam, August, Google DeepMind steps in and says, yep, that's us. They officially claim it and rebrand it Gemini 2.5 Flash image. It's perfect. The reveal lands on a foundation of performance that's already been validated by the community. It's genuine interest, not manufactured hype.
I love this phrase, weaponized anonymity. That's exactly what this was. And it's the key to the whole strategy. It gave them pure, unfiltered, unbiased proof of what the model could do. Think about it. Instead of a bunch of cherry-picked demos, Google just let the model's actual performance do the talking. They established that technical superiority through what is essentially a massive, collective, blind user judgment. It's like the ultimate peer review, but on a global scale.
Okay, so we know the launch was clever, but what about the tech itself? What's the engineering that actually powered this kind of performance? What makes it so good at what it does? Let's pop the hood and get into the architecture.
All right, the big buzzword here, and it's a crucial one, is natively multimodal. Now, what does that actually mean? It means this isn't just a text model with some image capabilities kind of bolted on as an afterthought. No, this thing was trained from the ground up, from day one, to process text and pixels together in a single shared space. And that unified approach, that's the secret sauce. It's what lets it reason so deeply about an image based on a text command. This is the foundation for everything else it does well.
And when you look at what this architecture enables, you start to see the strategy. You've got incredible character and style consistency. You can take a subject and put it in totally different scenes. It can fuse elements from multiple images into one coherent picture. And the big one, conversational editing. You can make tiny, precise changes just by talking to it. This list makes it super clear what the engineering focus was. The goal wasn't just to build another image generator. The whole architecture is optimized for intelligent image manipulation. It's all about controlled, iterative refinement. And for a lot of us in professional workflows, that is a much more valuable problem to solve. Okay, but let's talk about rubber meets the road performance. How does it actually do out in the wild? Well, the data shows a really specialized profile. There are some huge wins, but also some very intentional, calculated trade-offs.
And here's the proof right here. Look at its dominance on the LMArena leaderboard. Now, what's so important about this is that LMArena isn't some synthetic benchmark running on a server somewhere. This is raw, aggregated user preference from thousands of real-world editing tasks. When you win blind A/B tests this consistently, it tells you one thing very clearly. For its main job, modifying existing images, it's just flat-out better in the eyes of real users.
But it's not perfect, and this is what I'm calling the consistency paradox. On one hand, its ability to keep a subject's identity, the face, the shape, specific markings, is absolutely remarkable, even when you change the scene or style dramatically. But on the other hand, it can really struggle with fine details, like getting the anatomy of a hand right or making sure a pose is logically coherent. You can really see the engineering trade-offs they made. They clearly optimized for preserving that core identity,
And sometimes that came at the cost of other things. It's a classic specialization problem. You can't be the best at everything.
And now for the number that really matters to any of us actually building applications on top of these things, the cost. We're looking at roughly 3.9 cents per image, per API call. That is fast and incredibly cost-effective. What this means is that it's a genuinely practical tool you can build into a production workflow at scale. Whether you're generating marketing assets or thousands of e-commerce mockups, the economics just work.
Now we have to talk about the limitations, because they're just as important as the strengths. First off, censorship is high. It's going to decline anything that's even remotely borderline. Its style transfer capabilities are, well, they're not great. Older models are actually better at pure artistic stylization. It can sometimes ignore parts of a really complex prompt, and the API output is capped at around 1024 pixels. But here's the thing. These limitations just drive home the point that this is not a one-size-fits-all model. It's a specialist tool, meticulously optimized for one thing: photorealistic identity-preserving edits. And that came at the expense of other things. That was the choice.
Okay, so we've got this highly specialized profile. Where exactly does this thing fit in the wider AI arena? The goal here isn't to crown one model as the best. That's the wrong way to think about it. The goal is to figure out which model is the right tool for the specific job you're trying to do.
And honestly, for any engineer watching, this is the money slide right here, because it lays out the decision-making process perfectly. You're not really choosing a model anymore, you're choosing a workflow. Do you need the incredible consistency and conversational editing of Gemini Flash Image? Or do you need the amazing first-shot prompt adherence of DALL-E 3? Maybe you need the pure artistic stylization of Midjourney. Or do you need the total open-source flexibility of Stable Diffusion? They're all different tools for different jobs.
And that really brings the key trade-off into sharp focus, especially when you put it head-to-head with DALL-E 3. It all comes down to workflow. If your goal is to write one super detailed prompt and get a great result on the first try, DALL-E 3 often has the edge. But if your workflow involves taking an existing image and tweaking it, refining it, and changing it conversationally while keeping the subject the same, well, Gemini is the purpose-built tool for that job. Period.
So, you're sold. How do you actually get your hands on this thing and start using it? Well, Google has rolled out a classic three-pronged strategy here, and it's designed to capture basically the entire market, from casual users all the way up to enterprise devs. And this is just a textbook platform play. They are covering all their bases. For the general user, there's 3 watermarked access right in the Gemini app. That builds mass market awareness. Then, for developers and enterprise, you've got the paid API through Google AI Studio and Vertex AI. And they're even integrating it with Adobe and Figma. That's where they're targeting monetization in professional workflows. And finally, for the power users and hobbyists, they're letting the community build tools, like the Comfy UI node, which captures that really influential segment of the market. It's smart. Now, for those of you who live and breathe in Comfy UI, this is a pretty big deal. The community has already jumped on this and built a custom node, which lets you plug the power of this closed-source model right into your flexible, open-source workflow. Here are the basic steps to get it installed. Go ahead and pause here if you want to jot these down. The really important thing to remember is that you will need a paid Google Gemini API key. The node is just making direct API calls under the hood, so it's not free. All right, so let's zoom out a bit. What does the arrival of a model like this really signal for the future of generative AI? Where is all of this heading? You know, a tool like this really starts to challenge the entire way we think about editing. The whole paradigm of layers and masks and painstakingly using manual selection tools, that's being questioned. This points to a future where your creative intent is just expressed conversationally. The line between generating an image from scratch and editing an existing one is getting blurrier and blurrier. It's almost becoming meaningless. And really, Gemini 2.5 Flash Image gives us a pretty clear roadmap for where things are going. The future isn't just about making one single model that tries to do everything. It's about 3 things: giving creators precise, predictable user control, building models with deep multimodality that can reason across text, image, audio, everything, and workflow specialization. We're moving away from these general art generators and toward highly optimized, task-specific models. You could say the era of the generalist is ending and the era of the specialist is beginning. And that really leaves us with one last big question, because this model and its whole story perfectly frames the central tension in AI development right now. On one side, you've got these closed ecosystems. They're reliable, they're predictable, but they're also very restricted. And on the other side, you have the wild, limitless creative potential and the total freedom of open source. The real question for all of us is,
Which one of those paths is ultimately going to define the future of how we create?